38 AD, 3932 AM. Roman Emperor Caligula removed the gigantic obelisk from the Egyptian city of Memphis, known anciently as Heliopolis and On Anu, the obelisk being one erected by Thutmose III using Israelite labour. He removed the immense obelisk to the circus area of Rome, a feat of tremendous naval engineering 1554 years after it was erected. The obelisk is a symbol of Israelite heritage and Iron Empire status. Rome in the prophetic records is the Iron Empire, one of slavery and oppression like Egypt of old. At this time in history, no other civilization in the world had enslaved so many people. This obelisk was the twin to another that would be removed, and both obelisks erected by the Israelites in 1515 BC would one day be removed again and erected in the capital commercial cities of Manasseh and Ephraim, patriarchs of the empires of adoption, in London and New York. The obelisk measured 1584 inches high, and in 1586 AD, Pope Sixtus V would remove this one from the circus to the court square of St. Peter's Cathedral. Altogether there were 4 obelisks raised by Thutmose III. The prophetic empires of the descendants of Israel, Manasseh and Ephraim are Britain and the United States, which will be shown abundantly as this chronology progresses. Interestingly, it is no coincidence that Christianity was brought into Britain in this year, according to British historian Gildas, who asserts that it was brought into Britain within a year of Tiberius' death. Further, the word came by way of Jerusalem, not Rome, as at this early date Rome had not yet exerted its authority over the Church. Eusebius wrote that some of Jesus' own disciples visited the British Isles. It is to be recalled that in 585 BC, Jeremiah escorted a royal Judahite princess named Tamar to Ireland by way of Egypt with his friend and scribe Baruch, a visit well remembered in the Irish annals. This year of the arrival of Christianity into Britain was 622 years after the fall of Judah, a number seen over and over in Abrahamic and Israelite histories. 1. St. Paul in Britain. 2. Freemasonry and its ancient mystic rites. 39 AD, 3933 AM. Caligula of Rome imprisoned Ptolemy, king of Mauritania, northwest Africa, jealous of his wealth and perfectly administered kingdom, founded by Juba II and Cleopatra Selene. The people of Mauritania revolt and slaughter the Romans in their kingdom, and Ptolemy is executed. This is the modus operandi of Rome, to instigate and prod their allies into retaliating so they can treat them as enemies and take their wealth and sell off the population into the Mediterranean slave market. 1. The Lost Treasure of King Juba. 40 AD, 3934 AM. As pre-planned by Caligula, the Romans invade Mauritania in an effort to steal away their wealth. The kingdom set up by King Juba II was tremendously prosperous. The people of Mauritania know their peril and refuse to give over their wealth to the Romans. When the Romans invaded, they found nothing of worth, for the Mauritanians fled with the famous treasury, the library of Juba II and the gold coffins of Juba II and Cleopatra Selene, while the defence of Mauritania was led by Aidamon. Also in this year, Philo of Alexandria, a wealthy Jew, visited Caligula in Rome, seeking relief for ill-treated Jews in Egypt, but he was unsuccessful. Pomponius Mela drew a map of the continent of Australia, called Antipodes. This was the 792nd year of Rome. 1. The Lost Treasure of King Juba. 2. Jesus, God, Man or Myth. 3. Elder Gods in Antiquity. 41 AD, 3935 AM. Caligula is murdered, and the Praetorian Guard of Rome makes Claudius the emperor, his full name being Tiberius Claudius Drusus Nero Germanicus. He is the first emperor of the legions, his wife Messina the source of court intrigues and unrestrained sexual activities. Messina once had sexual intercourse with 25 men in a 24-hour period, to beat the record of a lowly servant girl that had excited her jealousy. In Mauritania, the resistance against Rome is led by Aidamon, who successfully defend themselves but cannot drive off the Romans. The Mauritanians were descendants of Phoenicians and Hebrews, Jews, Celtiberians, and Syrians. Many in Mauritania at this early date were Christians led by Alexander Helios, the last of Cleopatra the Great's children. Acquiring the help of local black Africans, the fleeing Mauritanians built a fleet of ships and sailed to North America. Because of storms on the Atlantic during their passing, some ships landed in Central America and South America. The plan was executed perfectly, the Atlantic crossing planned long in advance, the Mauritanians knowing of the greed of Rome. The majority of them, some 10,000 people, travelled up the Mississippi River from the Gulf of Mexico, the Ohio River, and ultimately the Embarrass River in what is now southern Illinois. In the year 1447 BC, 24:48 AM, the Israelites fled the oppression of Egypt led by Moses into a new land. In this year of 41 AD, the Mauritanian descendants of Israelites fled the oppression of Rome into a new land led by Alexander Helios, a Macedonian descendant. This being exactly 1447 years after Israel conquered the land of promise in Canaan in 1407 BC. Among the Mauritanians in this exodus to North America were many Christians, a fact borne out by the discovery in 1982 AD of relics from the lost treasury of King Juba II, which depict profiles of Jesus and a picture of Jesus resurrected, with holes in his wrists, not hands. This was 8 years after the crucifixion event in 33 AD, which means that some of those who crossed the Atlantic in this year just may have witnessed the crucifixion or had known and met the apostles or Jesus himself. This means that Christian missionaries could have set foot on the American continents within a decade of the crucifixion. For the discovery of the treasure of King Juba II, see 1982 AD. In History of the Church by Eusebius, church father and historian, we read, quote, "In the reign of Claudius, the all-good and gracious providence, which watched over all things, guided Peter the Great, and mighty among the apostles, who because of his virtue was the spokesman for all the others to Rome." Unquote. Also in Eusebius we read, quote, "Second year of the 205th Olympiad, the Apostle Peter, after he had established the Church of Antioch, is sent to Rome, where he remains as bishop of that city, preaching the gospel for 25 years." Unquote. Suetonius in his Life of Claudius wrote, quote, "Since the Jews continually made disturbances at the instigation of Chrestus, Claudius expelled them from Rome." Unquote. This is confirmed in the book of Acts 18:2. For when Paul was in the Greek city of Corinth writing the book of Romans, he met Priscilla and Aquila, refugees, quote, "lately come from Italy, because Claudius had commanded all the Jews to leave Rome." Unquote. 1. The Lost Treasure of King Juba. 4 witnesses.